friends, and welcome to another video. I'm Emily, and today we are going to be talking about 15 of my favorite things. I have been trying to think up a video idea, and I realized that I just wanted to chit-chat about something super simple, super easy. It's been kind of a crazy week. We were on vacation last weekend, and so we were gone for just a few days, but it was a lot of driving. And I am currently 7.5 months pregnant, and so it was very, very exhausting, and the rest of this week has just been spent kind of recovering. So today we're just gonna chit-chat about some 15 completely random favorite things. There's some crafting, sewing, knitting related things, there's food related things, books, movies, TV shows, animals, those sorts of things. So, if you're interested in all of that and the chance to kind of get to know me better a little bit, then stick around. So, number one, my favorite beverage is, other than water, because I drink water probably 90% of the time, except for when my brain suddenly decides that water tastes gross and then I have to like do something else. But my primary drinks of choice is going to be tea the majority of the time, and that's especially going to be the gunpowder green tea from Adagio Teas. There's a caramel rooibos tea from Adagio. And I love fruit teas like raspberry or like a good blueberry tea. Yeah, just like really fruity, strawberry, those sorts of teas. And then I also love peppermint tea. It's one of my favorite sort of comfort teas, if you will. And then if I'm having more of a treat drink, it would be apple juice. I love apple juice. I do not drink it very often because, yeah, it's not the best thing for you. It's a lot of sugar. But if I'm drinking juice, it's going to be apple juice. And then the other also rare treat thing is going to be a decaf caramel blended drink. That's the only kind of coffee that I really like. It's like 99% sugar and flavoring and milk rather than actually coffee. So that's my favorite beverage. Let me see here. These are just all kind of in a whatever order. So no rhyme or reason to it. The next one I have on here is my favorite fabric to sew with is going to be cottons in general. Quilting cotton, cotton poplin, or cotton lawn. I love working with all of those. And the reason for that is that they're a very stable fabric and they're really easy to sew with. I personally really like to wear cotton. It's one of my favorite things to wear. Like this dress that I'm wearing right now was made out of just a quilting cotton fabric. Yeah, so cotton, that's my favorite fabric to sew with. My favorite indie sewing pattern designers would be, at least for right now, Jennifer Lauren Handmade, which you would probably guess from the number of patterns I have made, or number of variations I have made of her Felicity dress pattern. There's a couple of other ones of hers that I really, really love as well. And I would love to be able to make some more of her patterns, but being pregnant at the moment kind of puts a damper on some of the sewing that I want to do. The other one would be Tilly and the Buttons. I do really like a decent amount of her designs. I feel like she's kind of an iffy one. I don't always love all of her designs. Some of them seem to be a bit more like modern or 60s vibes rather than kind of the fit and flare sort of 50s vintage look that I generally prefer. But I do really love her aesthetic and her design. And then the last one that we're going to mention today is Deer and Doe Patterns. I love so many of their sewing patterns that they have designed. There are a few that they've come out with more recently that are much more, yeah, I guess modern, that are not my favorite, but the dress that I'm wearing right now is the Deer and Doe Myosotis dress, and I have made a number of their bluet dress, a number of versions of the bluet dress, and I've made a couple of their other patterns, and I really overall just like their design catalog. Like I said, they've come out with a few more recently that are like meh. I don't really care for them as much, but for the most part, I really like them. The next one is, I'm just going to go ahead and move this one around. My favorite thing to sew is 100% dresses or skirts, but 90% of the time it's going to be dresses. I love to make dresses. I wear dresses all the time. I hardly ever wear trousers or jeans or anything like that. I just find them to be really uncomfortable and not particularly flattering for my body shape, so I just don't wear them. And then specifically my favorite type of dress to sew is like a classic shirt dress with the collar, buttons down the front, fit and flare, nipped in at the waist, big poofy skirt, pockets. I love that. I love that so much. I have recently, over the last week or so, been really kind of starting to feel a little bit of the itch of wanting to do just a standard fit and flare sort of a dress without having to worry about accommodating the bump and making sure that it's breastfeeding friendly and all those other things. I've just been like, oh, I really want to make just a vintage shirt dress pattern. Yeah. So we'll see. And about, I've only got a couple months left here being pregnant, and then a few months of postpartum recovery and whatnot, and then maybe I can go back to sewing some of those really like vintage 1950s fit and flare style things. Oh, I would love that. I'm actually going to check off some of these so I don't forget which ones I've already done. I think that's all of the kind of crafting related ones. And then this one's a really random one. My favorite number of choice is the number 5. I don't know why. It's just something that's kind of developed over the years. When we were little, my older sister would always talk about her favorite number was 8. And I used to think, oh man, I wish I had a favorite number. And for whatever reason, like I said, I do not know why. Over the last several years, I have just really fallen in love with the number 5. No clue, no rhyme, no reason, just I love the number 5, and so I would use 5 for absolutely everything. I'll do like, a list of 5 things, or like with this, it's a list of 15 things, which I love because it has a 5 in it. Yeah, it's great. I don't know, that one's a very random one, but that's my favorite number in case you were curious. Okay, then we're going to do what are some of my favorite YouTube channels. Now, on my channel, if you go and take a look at it, you can go underneath the channels tab on my channel, or I think if you just scroll down on the page a little bit, there's a list of a bunch of channels that I'm subscribed to. But I kind of wanted to give a little bit of a shout out to just a few of them that I really enjoy. These are the type of people that I see that they've uploaded a video and I pretty much want to drop everything and go and watch their video, depending upon what it is. Sometimes they upload videos and I'm like, me, not really interested, but for the most part, I see they've uploaded a video and I'm like, cool, knitting, couch, let's watch this. The first one is kind of a more recent discovery, and it is the Ireland channel, and it's all about journaling, and I love her videos so much. It has made me get back into kind of journaling. I need to make a journaling video at some point, and like this is my journal with it's all kinds of stuff. Just a quick flip through here. Yeah, and it was because of watching her YouTube channel. I absolutely love all of her. She does kind of, it's not really bullet journaling, and that's the thing. I tried to do sort of bullet journaling sort of a thing, and it just never really worked. And then she had a video where she was doing a like a binder style journal, and I didn't even realize that was a thing, and it made me so excited because one of the biggest things that keeps me back from doing any type of journaling is that it's like, usually, I don't have a good example really. Well, this one's kind of an example. It's usually a type of book like this. This is just a, this was one journal that I was trying to do. It's just a composition notebook, that's the word I'm looking for. And in order to take a page out, if you don't like what you've done, you kind of have to like cut it out or tear it out or paste over the whole page. And it always just was such a damper on wanting to do any type of journaling. And so as soon as I saw that it was such a thing to get just a binder for a journal, I got so excited about it. And so watching her YouTube videos, she does a little bit of drawing or painting. She uses a lot of stickers and like pretty journaling paper, so it's not 100% drawing and painting, but she incorporates all of it. Oh, it was so inspiring. So that's that one. And then the next one is, it's actually a twofer. It's Carrie Cakes and Carrie Can Read, and this is about a lovely lady who lives in Seoul, Korea with her husband, and on her Carrie Cakes channel she does kind of like vlogs where she goes out and about around the city of Seoul and does different things, goes to cafes, that sort of a vibe. Like, it's just really chill and really fun to watch. She also will do traveling vlogs when she goes on trips and stuff. And then she also has a book channel, or booktube channel, called Carrie Can Read. And I love both of her channels. Obviously Carrie Can Read is focused on like reading vlogs or monthly roundups or yearly roundups of books that she's read, that sort of a thing. So it's very much specifically like books, but I just really enjoy both of her channels. Next one is Tales from Cuckoo Land, Gaina. She's not the type of mom that I want to be, like that sort of a thing. She lives in England. I can't remember what part of England it is off the top of my head, but they live in this beautiful, beautiful farmhouse, and she does gardening, and she just got done doing a vlog every day for the month of June. And she'll do things like baking and gardening and just pottering about the house, just living such a simple, ordinary sort of a life, and I love it. I love it so much. She has 3 boys, and I find her such an inspiring person. I very much want to be just kind of the very chill, laid-back sort of mom that she seems to be. And I love watching her videos. She also does a lot of knitting and sewing. She didn't do as much in June because she was just very busy with the renovating and decorating and gardening and all those sorts of things. But I really, really enjoy watching her YouTube channel. The next one is Darling Desi. I really like her YouTube channel. She's very, very aesthetic. Very much so. She puts so much work into making her YouTube videos. They're just beautiful. She'll talk about, fashion or books or, I guess, lifestyle, like those kinds of things. And she's just really fun to watch. She seems like a person that I could be good friends with, like that sort of a vibe. She's kind of like cottagecore-y, that sort of a thing. And I really like her personality. Then there's Rosary Apparel, Janelle. Oh, so inspiring. She does a lot of, she's sewing. She actually is a sewing pattern designer. She's got a few different dresses and stuff that she has sewing patterns for, and I would love to try out her sewing patterns. They're just a little bit pricey for me right now, but someday I'm going to try one of them out. And she lives in Tasmania, I believe it is. She's Australian, at least, and she'll do these really, really lovely sewing videos. She'll do ones where she sews outfits that she has found on Instagram that she really loves, so instead of buying them, she'll sew them. She'll do like seasonal sewing plans, and then at the end of the season she'll do like kind of a roundup of what she made for that season. I love it. She just recently did a quilt video, and oh, gracious me, I want a diamond quilt now so badly. I saw the quilt in one of her previous videos. She mentioned it, and I was just like, oh, that looks so good. And then watching the whole video of the process of making the quilt, I want to make a quilt so bad now. And then the last one that I'm going to talk about today is the Creabea Knitting Podcast. Rebecca, I just love her podcast so much, and a big reason for that is 100% because she is Scottish and she lives in Edinburgh and has the most beautiful accent. But she also just makes so many like gorgeous things, and she's kind of dabbling in some knitting pattern design right now, and that just makes me so excited. I would love to knit one of her knitting patterns. But yeah, she does it's usually about a bi-weekly knitting podcast, and every now and then she'll talk a bit about some sewing that she's been doing, but she's just so inspiring when it comes to knitting. I love watching her videos. She's definitely one where I see it and I'm like, ooh, it is time for some knitting and some water and just plunking myself down on the couch and just watching. So, that's that one. I don't even know what number we're on here. The next one we're going to do is a pretty easy one. Favorite colors. What are my favorite colors? I love blue, pretty much all shades of blue, except for the very, very pale, like pale shades of blue. I love royal blue, marine blue, like all the blues, navy blue. I love kind of mustardy yellows. Oh, they're so beautiful. I love the color yellow in general, but I can't really pull it off, I don't think. And a lot of yellows are much, much, much too bright for me. But like a mustard yellow, where it's got kind of that like brownie hints to it. Oh, it's so beautiful. Then greens, I have had a really growing love of greens this year. I don't know what is up with that. I've always liked greens, but this year in particular, it just seems that I just have fallen in love with green. especially like kind of an olive foresty green. Oh, it's so pretty. I love that so much. I really, really, really want to have a dress and like just an olive foresty floral. Beautiful. Then pinks. Specific shades of pink. I don't like super bright fuchsia shades, and I don't like super pale like baby pinks. I kind of like this is a good example of the color of pink that I like, where it's kind of like a rosy, I guess you could say almost antique rose mauve, or mauve, excuse me, antique-y rose color. It's so pretty. And then in general, I love jewel tones. They seem to be the ones that look the most flattering on me. And I just love kind of the autumnal fall jewel tones. And then for my neutral of choice is 100% gray. I love gray. I don't have like any gray in my wardrobe, which is kind of sad. I typically will wear a lot of black because I also do like black as a neutral. Again, beiges, whites, creams, they just don't look great on me. So I like things that have a little bit of color. But I wrote down gray and I was like, ooh, I need more gray in my wardrobe. We need to fix this. Okay, and then the next one is favorite animal. What is my favorite animal? I love all woodland animals, like badgers, moles, hedgehogs, foxes, squirrels, rabbits, like all those sorts of animals. Oh, they're so cute. I love them so much. I guess I was gonna say I just had one favorite animal, but then I literally just remembered another animal that I absolutely love and think is the most adorable thing. But one of my all-time top favorite animals is otters. I love otters. They're so funny and cute. I just love them so much. But then the other one, which was a more recent discovery in the last like 2-3 years, is a pika. And if you're not familiar, I'll see if I can find a picture and like pop it up here. It's kind of a mix between like a rabbit and a mouse, and they're just adorable. So those are probably like my top 2 favorite animals. It would be otters and pikas, but I do love all of the little woodland animals so much. I want like all of the fabrics that I can find that have like all the little woodland animals, and when I'm shopping for clothes for this baby, I'm like all of the woodland animal things. It's kind of bad. Next one, favorite desserts. I definitely have a sweet tooth, 100%. Now, I'm a big fan of savory things as well, but I do really like sweets. Like, they're so good. One of my top favorite sweets, if we're talking like kind of candy, is chocolate and caramel, but dark chocolate. It has to be a dark chocolate and then caramel. We just Mike and I went through eating a whole bag of dark chocolate and caramel, like chunk square candy things. They're so good, and I'm so sad that we are out and I want to go get more. I just want all of the chocolate and caramel right now. And then I love ice cream, but I'm a little boring in that my favorite ice cream, hands down, is vanilla. I love vanilla so much. It's my favorite. My next favorite would be cookies and cream, which is really funny because it's literally just vanilla ice cream with Oreo cookies in it, which I do love Oreo cookies. Those are quite tasty, so it makes sense that I would like cookies and cream. But I love vanilla ice cream. And then my favorite cake would be funfetti cake, which for those of you that aren't familiar, I don't know if that's like technically a copyrighted like Pillsbury cake mix sort of a thing, but it's literally just a vanilla cake with sprinkles in it. So it's got the pops of color. It's so pretty and so cute, and it tastes delicious, and I love it. And then one of my other like all-time favorite desserts is pumpkin pie. I love homemade pumpkin pie. It is so good. We actually, for my cousin and my wedding, I had my mom, she was making all the desserts for it because we did cookies instead of a cake. For the cake cutting, I had her just make us a little baby pumpkin pie because I was like, I'm feeling pumpkin pie. I really want pumpkin pie. So those are my favorite desserts. This is such a random video, but it makes sense because the title is going to be something along the lines of 15 random favorite things. The next one we're going to talk about is what is my favorite season, or seasons in order of favoritism. Spring. I love springtime. Springtime is my favorite time of year. It has been for a very long time. I love the weather is beautiful. I love that all the leaves are kind of starting to peep out on the trees. All the birds are coming back and they're singing like crazy. Flowers. Oh, I love springtime so much. The next one would be autumn or fall time. I love autumn, fall time. It's so beautiful. All the leaves are changing colors. You get to wear sweaters and you can do all the cozy things and eat all of the pumpkin, like pumpkin bread and pumpkin pie. I very much dislike pumpkin flavored things, but pumpkin pie and pumpkin bread, so good. So spring and then fall and then summertime. I love summertime. Even though it gets painfully hot outside, and that's not the bestest thing ever, I love that there's so much more light. It's really bright early in the morning. It makes it way easier for me to get up in the morning, and then it stays light into the evening. All the sunshine. I love that. But I also love a good summer thunderstorm. Oh, there's something, ooh, my phone's going off. Shh. There's something just so cozy and brilliant about a good summer thunderstorm. Like, oh, I love that. To curl up with a book. And you don't really want hot tea because it's hot outside, but something to drink and a snack and it's just pouring outside. Love that. And then winter is like the last on my list. I get really cold. And I am not the best about making sure that I have the most weather-appropriate clothing, and I really need to work on that. And then also, like, this last winter was kind of a rough winter for me just because I was pregnant and morning sick over, like, Christmas, and then I also had some post-COVID symptoms, and so I was having a lot of issues with being able to eat anything at all. And so the post-COVID combined with pregnancy stuff, it was just kind of a rough winter. I was tired and just not feeling good the whole time. So it was a little miserable, but I'm hoping that this winter I'll be able to kind of romanticize it a little bit more and make sure I'm well and appropriately dressed so that I can be warm, so that I don't feel cold all the time. Because that's honestly the biggest reason why winter will get to me, is it's a lot darker and I get cold. And I just hate being cold. So I need to work on that this year. But that is my seasons in order of favorite. I would love to know what your order of favorite seasons is and why. Okay, so with that one, let me see here. We are coming down to the end. Let me get a drink of water. We have a couple of books that I wanted to talk about. What are my favorite book genres? So classics. Hands down, I love classics. Like all of the, I'm trying to think of examples, like Jane Austen, not Charles Dickens. Not really, I'm not a huge fan of him. or like Louisa May Alcott. I'm having a hard time thinking of all the classics off the top of my head, of course. But I love a lot of classics. I love kind of the golden age murder mysteries, like that sort of thing. Agatha Christie and a few other authors. And I love kind of the older or vintage children's, or I guess they're kind of classified as like middle grade literature, but specifically vintage. I'm not a big fan of really any modern day literature or books. Not a huge fan. They don't give me like the good, cozy, lovely book vibes. I love old books. That's my go-to. That's my thing. So those are my favorite book genres. And then I wanted to really quick list off 5 of my favorite authors. I have a lot of favorite authors, and I really had to limit myself, so this is by no means an exhaustive list. If you've watched my channel for any length of time now, you will know that Brian Jacques is one of my top favorite authors. So I was not going to mention him today as a specific favorite author because we all know I love Brian Jacques. So my favorite authors are Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. He wrote the Sherlock Holmes stories. I love Sherlock Holmes so much. It was one of those books that I read a ton when I was pretty young. I just ate those up. I read them multiple times. I love Sherlock Holmes. So Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, definitely a great author. Agatha Christie, who I already kind of mentioned, but she writes some of the best murder mysteries that I have ever read, and I absolutely love her writing style. I love her as a person. I read her autobiography last year, and it was just brilliant. It's a chunky book to get through, but it was hilarious to get a sneak peek of kind of like her life and her perspective on her life and everything. I love her. I love everything about her. She is amazing. And then obviously Jane Austen. You cannot go wrong with Jane Austen. She really only has the 6 main books, but they're excellent books. Persuasion's the best, in case you were curious. And then Tolkien, obviously J.R.R. Tolkien. He wrote the Lord of the Rings series, The Hobbit, Fellowship of the Rings, Two Towers, and The Return of the King. I haven't read any of the other like peripheral sort of Middle-earth books, but those 4 primary books, they are so good. I've read them a number of times and I love them. And then the last one I was going to mention is a newer discovery for me, and it's Patricia Wentworth. And I found out about her in, I think, January, and I read all of her books so quickly. It was one of the bright spots of my less than delightful winter when I was having to be in bed a lot. I just read all of her books. And her primary, I don't know if she has books outside of this series. I don't actually know that. But she wrote the Miss Silver murder mystery series. And I loved it so much. They're kind of like this sort of vibe of Agatha Christie, Golden Age mystery, that sort of a thing. And they're all really sweet and like sort of wholesome for murder mysteries. And they always have some sort of like light romance or light love story mixed into the story. They're amazing. Like I said, I think there's 28 or 30 of her books, and I read them in like 2 months. It was crazy. Like, I fell in love. Head over heels in love. We are down to the last 2, I think. Let me see here. Oh, no. There's another one. Okay. We'll do that one really quick. Favorite aesthetics. This was one that I kind of chucked in at the end because I couldn't think of anything else and I needed to make 15. So if you're not familiar, aesthetics are kind of something that came to popularity really in 2020, and it's just kind of a mood or a vibe, I guess, a look sort of a thing. Cottagecore is definitely like one of the most popular aesthetics. I don't know that much about aesthetics. I don't care anything about any sort of politics behind said aesthetics. I like them for the looks. Cottagecore is definitely one that I do really appreciate. I love the whole aspect of like simple living and kind of dresses and long hair and nature, like all of those things. I love those. It does tend to be very much like kind of centered on sort of pastel type colors, which is not necessarily my vibe because again, I don't really care for those and how they look on me. I love jewel tones. So, but the overall theme of cottagecore, I do appreciate it. And then I do really, really, really like Dark and Light Academia, which is just very much kind of like jewel tones, fall, autumn, like books, all of those things, quill pens, parchment paper, or not parchment paper, just like parchment, and then like crinkly paper and all those things, like, oh, I love that. And then one, I don't know if it's an official aesthetic, but it's one that I am choosing as an aesthetic, and that's kind of vintage farmhouse vibes. And that's kind of like the cozy kitchen that you would go into with the wood tables and the exposed wood beams, and it's got a jar of flowers in the window and cheery, pretty, bright curtains, and or like the cozy homemade blanket or quilt on the bed. Yeah, like those sorts of vibes. Not kind of the Pinteresty farmhouse thing. That's not so much my thing, where it's a lot of like white and it's very, I don't know, it's kind of like a very popular sort of Pinterest farmhouse thing. No, I'm talking like kind of the vintage farmhouse, like an actual farmhouse. Like the 100-year-old farmhouse with like, you know, it looks like kind of the grandmother sort of a kitchen vibe. That's my goal. So someday, that's like my dream house sort of a goal. I'm kind of thinking about making a video at some point with kind of talking about some of the aesthetics and what I would classify as my aesthetic. It feels a little trendy for me to talk about it, which is kind of not my thing. I'm not very trendy at all. But I think that it might be kind of fun. So yeah, those are probably my favorite sort of aesthetic vibes, if you will. And then this one was kind of random. I was listening to Disney music while I was working on coming up with this list, and so I was like, ooh, favorite Disney princess. My favorite Disney princess is Sleeping Beauty. The original, whenever it was made, 1940s cartoon. I love that one so much. It's so good. I love all of like the original Disney cartoons. I think that those are so superior to any remakes, except for Cinderella. This 2015 Cinderella with Lily James and Richard Madden. That movie is so good. Kenneth Branagh did a phenomenal job making that movie. I love it. But we're getting sidetracked here. My favorite Disney princess is Sleeping Beauty. And I thought I'd mention really quick, my favorite sort of Sleeping Beauty retelling is Spindle's End by Robin McKinley. I love this book so much. I've read it so many times. My mom got it for me for Christmas several years ago. I don't think she wrote in here when she did. No. But it's just this really sweet Sleeping Beauty retelling, and it's so good. There's like talking to animals, and there's this house that's almost alive, and I love it. I don't know what it is. I love it when like buildings, they're kind of alive in stories. They almost are a character themselves. That is one of my favorite things when it comes to books. There's just something about like an old house that they seem to have so much character already that it seems so appropriate to make them a character. So there's that one. And then the last one that we are going to talk about today is my favorite comfort. I was going to say movies and TV shows, and then I realized that they were all technically TV shows. So yeah. Number one, David Attenborough documentaries. I love David Attenborough documentaries. I have watched and rewatched them so many times. They're where I discovered that pikas were an animal. I did not realize until I was watching one of the David Attenborough documentaries. They're so, so good. I think there's some on Amazon. I know you can buy them. And then there's like one on Netflix. I definitely prefer his older ones. I think they're a little bit less doom and gloomy and talking about how the planet is dying sort of a thing. So if we're talking specifically like comfort sort of a thing, his older ones are better. Then there's Leverage, the TV show. I randomly found this on Netflix when I was going through a very rough patch in my life, and I watched it so quickly. It's super funny. It's kind of like this sort of heist, sort of it's a gang of a group of about 5 people. I think it's 5 people. That's kind of funny. Or is it 6? It's 5. I didn't even really pay attention to that. And the fact that, 5 is my favorite number. But it's this really fun thing where it's kind of like a Robin Hood. That's the better way of putting it. Where it's like they're thieves. It's a group of thieves, but they're fighting for the good guys. They're stealing from the rich to help out the poor, sort of a thing. I love it so much. It's such a good show. Highly recommend it. Another one that I would say is a comfort show is Avatar: The Last Airbender, the animated one. It's just so much fun. It's such a fun show to watch. If you haven't seen it, I do highly recommend you go and check it out. The first few episodes, Micah, my husband, he kind of says that the first half of season 1 is very kidsy. I don't mind that. It doesn't bother me at all, but just the overall story, there's only about 3 seasons, and then each episode is about 20 to 30 minutes long, so it's not a huge commitment, and it's just, oops, kicking my camera. It's just fun. I really enjoy it. It's very low stress, low drama, like, it's great. And then another one that is even more kidsy is the animated Beatrix Potter's TV series that was made back in the 90s, I think. It's Peter Rabbit and Friends, and it's all on YouTube, and it is so well done. The artwork looks very, very similar to Beatrix Potter's actual artwork. They stick to the books. It's so good. And the music and everything, I love it. I have watched that a lot. We never watched it when I was a kid. I've only ever watched it since I was an adult. But I love it. It's very much like a comfort sort of a show. And then the last one is The British Baking Show, which is on Netflix. I much prefer the earlier seasons when it had Mary Berry and Mel and Sue were kind of the announcers, hosts. I'm not sure exactly what they would be classified as. It made me so sad when I realized that here recently Netflix took off all of those earlier seasons and they only have like 5 seasons now, and I was just like, what have you done? You took away like the best part of the British Baking Show. I will watch the ones with Noel and Sandy. I think that they're pretty good hosts still. I think that Mel and Sue were infinitely superior. And then the newest last couple of seasons, they replaced Andy with some other guy, and I just, the vibes are not there. No, I haven't watched this. So I love it with Mary Berry. I think that she is much classier and superior to Prue. That's just kind of my personal opinion. And then Mel and Sue were genuinely like hilarious, and I their sense of humor and the way that they would like sarcastically go back and forth just tickled my funny bone, if you will, and it just was, I think that they were the best. So early seasons of British Baking Show are definitely a comfort thing for me. And that wraps it all up. I hope that you enjoyed kind of hearing me chit-chat about some of these favorite things of mine. I would love to know some of your favorite things. If you would like to leave a comment down below and let me know. Yeah, stay tuned next week. We should be back with a regular knitting podcast episode. And I'm kind of hoping to get another knit and chat video up, but I just need to work through and get some topics figured out. For whatever reason, I've just been having a very hard time figuring out a topic for a knit and chat video. So if you have any suggestions or things that you would like me to talk about, I'd love to hear about it. But anyway, that is it for today. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. I hope that you found it fun and interesting, and I will see you very soon on the next one. Bye!